Welcome to Street Psychology Podcast. Today's guest is Maz Alexander. She's going to be talking about mental well-being, faith, trauma, and rejection resilience. She has a story. Maz, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us more about what you do, what you've been doing, your most recent things, and just tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Sylvia. For those of you who don't know, I am Maz Alexander, and I always try and get away from titles, but yeah, I have a few. So yes, I based in South London. Across the pond. I'm a social worker by trade. I'm doing that for over 18 years. I'm also a mental well-being coach, a speaker, and an author. The most difficult job of all is being a mother to a teenage girl. But yeah, amongst that, I'm many things. And like you, Sylvia, I'm a free spirit as well. So here we are.
Yeah, free spirit. So, what does free spirit mean for you?
It means essentially, not always, because I know how to conform and when to conform, but giving myself permission to live my life authentically and also allowing others to do the same and not being bound by the pressures of society or a particular religious or community groups. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. All right. No, I love it. And so, in your introduction in your bio with me, you did talk about along this journey that you've had so far. It started when you became sick and tired of the feeling of defeat in your life.
Mm.
Can you walk us through that moment?
Which time? Last week or the one 10 years ago? Oh,
That's a good
you
question.
know, yeah, because actually we never quite arrived to work on this journey of life. I suppose the time you're referring to was the catalyst for change between 10 and 15 years ago. I was in a job, it was well paid. I was making money. I'd recently been divorced. It was a time of change and transition. I'd just been kicked out of the church for being a free spirit. And you question things. So I was having this kind of existential crisis where I was looking at myself, my beliefs, my core values. I decided at that time, because in the job especially, I was burnt out. They were causing me to do unethical things, which would compromise my integrity, things that would jeopardize the clients I had. So I was like, nah, it's not what I signed up for. So I left the church. Certain family members, I discovered that one of them had narcissistic personality disorder. And I decided I didn't want to the merry-go-round with them. So those things led me to seek my own healing journey because I really didn't want to remain where I was, stuck in a dead end job. I thought, am I going to stay here till I retire? Am I going to stay questioning these relationships? Yeah, I decided to seek more, to research and find out about me. So, yeah, there we have it.
Yeah. So, it was a combination of everything. It was your work life, the church life, your family, everything was overwhelming
Yeah.
for you. It's not easy to make that decision, what you did to walk away from all three of those things, but you did. Yeah.
I
And
feel it was essential for my healing. And that's what people do. But I thought, no, there has to be more to life than this. And I don't want this. I want something more. Yeah.
it was a buildup because you called it the feeling of burnout. It was physical and emotional. How did burnout look in your life?
Yeah. And it was also spiritual. It doesn't mean that I've had recent periods of emotional burnout. But at that time, I recall just being curious about what was going on with me. The insomnia affected me physiologically, the irritability, the tearfulness. Usually people would say, oh, you're strong, whatever. I'm not strong in the way they classify it. And we'll talk more about that later. But I was becoming very tearful, unable to focus. And just not when you're not firing on all cylinders. I thought, something, what's going on here? This is not like me. I feel uneasy in my body and in my mind. I don't like this feeling. That's what it was for me. And just
Okay.
tiredness, general tiredness, sleeping excessively, perhaps it would look like to other people. I had to rest. I was emotionally drained. And people would say to me, your job isn't physically demanding. Why are you so tired? I cannot speak. I don't want to interact with anybody. I wanted to hibernate. And that's what I did for a while. Yeah.
To me, it sounds a little bit like depression too.
Yeah, I call it melancholy because me working in mental health, we're all somewhere on the spectrum in that respect. I'm sure we've all had depressive episodes, but not clinically because I was still very high functioning. I did what I needed to do, and even the bare minimum to some people. And that's the thing with overachievers. It looks like, yeah, you got it together. What are you talking about? You're fine, but I wasn't fine.
That goes back to being strong, which we'll get to, like
Yeah.
you said. You also mentioned spiritual abuse, and spiritual abuse is something that a lot of people, I feel like, they experience. A lot of people don't know that they're experiencing it, but then some people do. Did you know this for a long time and you were just dealing with it? Did you not know and you realized it at that point? What is your journey with that?
Yeah, I mean, with any type of abuse, I didn't even know at the time there was such a thing as spiritual abuse. I was like, what's that? And I'm still a person of faith. I am a kingdom woman. I do struggle with the term Christianity because of the connotations and the mockery it's become these days. But at the time, I thought I was going to a Pentecostal church. I thought they were my brothers and sisters. I didn't know it was a cult. It was a full blown cult. Because when you break it down, no one, when you join a cult, is going to say, we're a cult. We're going to take away your liberties. And so did a lot of people. In fact, I still know people in that church. And this is probably a trauma response. I wanted to have a sense of belonging. So I thought, okay, it's a good thing. You're in the church, you're serving. All of those things were good until there were more sinister things. So I'll give you some examples because I know a lot of Christians will get at me and say, well, you just need to submit to the leadership, which is what I did. Little subtle things like they'd send spies out, for example. That sounds crazy, right? They'd send spies. And every Sunday, the pastor would be like, sister, we need to talk to you. I'd be like, well, I'm thinking, what have I done now? So and so saw you. You went to a restaurant. I did. You shouldn't be in a restaurant. I said, I was just eating. They were sending members of the congregation who saw me. I didn't know you're not supposed to watch things. Oh, no, you can't be in ministry and watch television. I didn't know that. So I was forever breaking these unwritten rules. And I didn't know because they have this shepherding kind of heresy, similar to Catholicism. Everything has to be run through the pastors. Any decision, especially if you're a single woman, I was divorced at the time, they would say things like, even books, even reading Christian books, oh, let me approve that. If you want to go on holiday, if you want to go anywhere, you need to come to me. Because the pastor thought he was my husband. He had a wife, but I didn't know all of this till after. Spiritual abuse is like any other, quite subtle, quite insidious, and it can masquerade itself as doing good, doing your duty or your civil duty, but it's very sinister. And before you realize it, you're enmeshed in something that you don't want to be. Yeah.
For you, you said specifically this pastor thought he was your husband. Do you mean that literally? That was also something you were unaware of?
Yeah, like many pastors believe, the covering. So he saw himself as Christ's representative on the earth. He had a wife. I know he didn't think there was nothing really sexual there with him, although there has been with others. He probably thought he had good intentions. So he thought, you need to stay under my guidance because I know what's best for you. You don't have a husband, so I'm going to protect you. Come to me as if you would a husband because I'm your substitute husband. And on the surface of it, that might seem okay until these breaking of these unwritten rules and condemnation and guilt and shame. And I remember thinking, there's got to be more. If this is what it's about, I don't want it. But I know I'm still a believer. I'm still a believer, but this ain't it.
Yeah. I just think it's important for people to hear that what feels right is not always right necessarily because there's this small part that's a bit off in spiritual abusive relationships and environments. But you just accept it because you believe this is church. This is a place of God. It must be right. I've seen it a lot, similar to your situation where it can get scary. People following you around, showing up to your house, dictating your every move, criticizing you. Those are some of the signs to look out for in a spiritual setting that could be harmful mentally.
Amongst many others, if your identity, because it can be so subtle. Now, obviously, I look at my brothers abroad, my African brothers and sisters. I'm like, why are you letting the pastor do that to you? Now, that would be obvious. If pastor's telling you to take off your clothes, that's kind of obvious. Like, what? But it happens. So it's limited to Christianity. It happens in Islam. It happens across the board. So any time your identity is being compromised, if you are being financially exploited, if you're being asked to do things that, body will tell you, like, that don't sound right. What you want me to do? You want me to go where? You mentioned you have to accept it. Actually, I chose not to accept it. I was like, this ain't right. So I prayed about it. I found a way out, and there were signs anyway. Sometimes we prefer lies because the truth, oh, how could you be so stupid? Just like a domestic relationship, if you're experiencing domestic, you invested in that partner, you've been with them for years, for you to face that, no, they're abusive, and now I need to leave. It's hard, isn't it? You think, I've invested all these years, let me carry on because they might change or my understanding might change, but it's not. You have to leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So generational trauma, there's something for you. I saw that little movement. What's going on with generational trauma with you? So I'm relating it to feelings of rejection and things like that might have contributed to your mental health during that difficult time of transition. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah, in a way. But generally, because for us, let me not generalize. Within the Black community, my family were from the Caribbean, and we all got something going on. I don't care if you say I've had no adverse childhood experiences. I had a happy childhood. Good for you. But if you trace 4 or 5 generations, there'll be something you don't know. What was great grandma struggling with that now is manifesting in your life? Whether you choose to believe that or not, I don't know about curses, but there are generational patterns and cycles that do repeat. Anytime you go to the doctor and they say, okay, they take your history, don't they? Do you have asthma, diabetes? Oh yeah, my grandmother had diabetes. These things, there are certain things that are passed down and they're not all physical. They may be spiritual. I have experienced that in my family. You mentioned depression before. I'm convinced that my grandmother, I saw it, my grandmother died at 108 years old.
Wow.
She lived long. Oh, but she was miserable. Miserable woman, never knew love in a day in her life. And I saw how that impacted my mother. My grandmother was descended from slaves. She lived in Jamaica. She was a tough old bird. And she was resilient. She was still walking and living independently till she was in her 90s. However, she wasn't emotionally adjusted. I remember her telling me her mother never wanted her and hated her. So you see how those experiences can play out. It made me more conscious, especially being a single mother raising my daughter, because I would never want her to feel that way. These things are some of the hidden traumas that people don't talk about. Even to this day, I'm like, Mom, tell me what happened to you. And she's like, don't go away, Chuck, don't be stupid. Don't ask me no question. That's what she'll tell me. I'm like, and she's 80. I respect that she may not be able to do anything or may not be willing to change the narrative, but I am, and I want to, and I hope the next generation will. It's really important.
Although those generational feelings of trauma and mindsets do show up sometimes, there are ways to overcome that and change the future generation of your family. So you're doing that for yourself and your daughter.
And for the wider community. It's what's her name? Brené Brown talks about in terms of us giving permission. If we all were honest and we looked at our lives, and some people may have big traumas, small traumas. I don't think it's healthy to compare our traumas, but we find out, oh, me too. I went through that too. It's sharing and being open. If you would have done this interview with me, even 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to really talk about these things because it may have felt like a betrayal to my family. Growing up, it was always what goes on in this house stays in this house. Don't talk about your business. And that's probably what influenced me to do the work I do. In social work, they call us the wounded soldiers, because any of us that are helping you, me, we've been through something and we want to try and change the system because we knew what it felt like when we wanted to be the change that we want to see.
Yeah, to be the change that we want to see. So This is what I'm thinking here, because on that note, what you're saying is about the generational trauma and how we process things, especially in Black community. Like you said, whatever we do in this house stays in this house. And it does create this sense of privacy in that it keeps you inward. You feel alone. You feel like you're not living your true life because you're not expressing things that are affecting you. To break out of that is huge. And it's something I think more people need to realize and be comfortable with doing, speaking your truth, thinking about your mental health, because that's what
Yeah.
Maz did. What are some strategies that helped you during that time to start building yourself up after not feeling good enough?
There are times, actually, I have bags of confidence, but the self esteem can take a tumble every now and again. I remember because that's why I had to leave the job, leave certain family members, love them from a distance, because you really cannot heal in the place where you've been oppressed, or at least it's really difficult. You have to, if you're drowning, you have to get out of the water, don't you? You can't try and
Mhm.
breathe under the water. I had to give myself permission because I was a people pleaser, always seeking validation. That's why I was an achiever. How many degrees? I got all the degrees, certificates, accolades, and yet I still didn't feel. And I still occasionally experience a bit of imposter syndrome. I'm not so much interested in, I go to a lot of business networking. People say, oh, they want to know what you do. I'm not interested in what you do. I want to know who you are, what your heart says. At the time, I had to give myself permission. Was seeking therapy, which was a big deal for me. Remember, I work in the mental health sector. So we're expected, and being a Christian, you're expected to have a certain level, these unwritten rules that you're supposed to have it together. Why are you going to therapy? Why do you need deliverance and prayer and all of this? Why haven't you got it together? I had to challenge those limiting beliefs and know my identity. My identity is not connected to my job or even to my family. And I'm really no respecter of persons. Sometimes people say, that's your family. Oh, but that's your pastor. I don't care who you are. If you're abusive, you get locked off. A lot of atrocities occur in the name of religion or family. And I've always been the black sheep. I learned to harness that rejection because I thought, I do believe that we're all here for a purpose and there's a plan for our lives. So I thought that is connected. These things that have held me in bondage, that have wounded me, they're there for a reason. So let's use them to help other people. That's why I wrote the books. That's why I coach people. That's why I do a lot of what I do is motivated by those experiences.
I would say, like you said, giving yourself permission, seeking some help, and then doing the work yourself too.
Before all of that is acknowledging, because sometimes we're in denial in terms of strategies. We can be in denial about what's going on. Like a car, don't wait till the oil or gas runs out. You need to take your car for its annual checkup. You need to put some gas in the car, otherwise it's going to break down. Let's not wait till we're in a state of crisis and we're freaking out. We can actually maintain our mental and spiritual well-being because these are all aspects of our health. When we talk about health, our health is not just going to the gym and eating organic produce, although that can be helpful too. We need to think of ourselves holistically, mind, body, and soul. That's what I did. So acknowledging the problem, because you can't seek help without that. I had to realize I
Right.
can't do it on my own. Yeah. And yeah, seeking help external. So yeah, that looked like therapy for me. I did go back to the church, finding support networks. But even if you feel you have to do it alone, again, giving yourself permission. The things I denied myself that I do now, for example, I travel. I've been to 8 countries in the last year. I gave myself permission to have the things that I deserve, actually. So yeah, that
Mm,
was the
mm.
start. That was the start.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Did you go back to that church?
No, you
I was
crazy.
gonna I didn't think
No,
so, but I had to clear it up. I'm like, "Wait, you said
no.
I went back to the church." I was like, "Not that church." Okay.
I just church body. Because like I said, I'm still a believer. I
Mm,
do believe it's important in terms of support networks, but I'm very unorthodox. They may not always receive me. They think I'm a bit peculiar. And I can
mhm.
be, but that's all right. They need someone like me to represent. But no, I went because I had to reconcile. It really challenges your faith when you're like, Lord, what is going on? These people are crazy. I had to understand. I'm always inquisitive. If something don't make sense to me, I'm going to research. I'm going to find out. because I'm naturally an overthinker. I'm going to go over it again till it makes sense. That's essentially what I did. I went to a healthy church. The one I was in before was a cult. So it was deceptive. They have branches all over the
Right.
world. People still, for me, an awakening. It was not all a bad experience because it woke me up. It made me not be so apathetic because I was relying on the pastor. Oh, I need a prophecy. I need a word. It made me have the discipline to investigate and to work out my faith, not to have secondhand faith, not to rely on people, to work it out for myself so that I am what I say I'm about. Yeah.
Mm. You made it a learning experience that helped you grow.
Yes.
And let's talk about your book. So, all of this, you got all of this experience and testing your faith, overcoming challenges physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, just because of all of being weighed down, taking on too much for too long. You go through this journey, you find some peace within yourself. Where did the inspiration come? The name of this book, Arise, Kintsugi Queens.
Yes, that's it. That's the one. Just like we've described, the inspiration was my life observations. Essentially, kintsugi, I don't know if you're familiar with the principle. It's a Japanese art form in Eastern cultures that they don't just, if you break a plate or pottery, we throw it away, don't we? They don't. They build it with a gold substance, which it creates something more beautiful than before. So you've seen it with cracks. And on the front of my book, it shows a woman, she's cracked because she's been broken, but she's put together with gold. This metaphor for our lives is about embracing our imperfections, knowing that we still hold value regardless of what's happened to us. You know, in the same way you have a $50 note, if you drop it in mud or in the toilet, I'm going to take it out. I'm not going to leave it there because the
Right.
thing still holds its value. You can still spend that, right? It might be
Mhm.
a bit dirty, but you dust that off and you spend it. And so we retain our value in spite of whatever we've been through, we are still valuable where we are. I don't care if you just came out of prison yesterday. I don't care if you were walking the streets last night. You are still very much valuable and needed. Everyone's got a story. Everyone's got a book inside them. My inspiration was just being inquisitive about myself, about human interactions. Remember, a part of certainly my social work role is to discharge patients with psychiatric illness. And I'm fascinated by them. One of my clients said to me one time, Maz, you know you're crazy. I said, I know that. And he said, but why are you making me take the medication? You need it more. I said, probably, but they never caught me. They caught you. So you take the medication. He had a point. I am a little bit off the wall. How we are at any given time, what society as you being unwell and the interventions that you need changes over time. So yeah, that was really the inspiration. And I've had it since I was a little girl, always been philosophical. I used to look in the mirror saying, who am I? I'm there in my leotard. I was like 6, 7 years old. I had a sense of carrying myself around with me. That led to this journey of being fascinated by the mental health world, wanting to set captives free, because of the stigma, being rejected, and not wanting others to go through those unnecessary things if it can be avoided. That's what it's about. I wrote that book, which is about healing and embracing yourself.
When did you know that the healing began instead of just survival?
Yeah, over 10 years ago, when I call it the wilderness moment, or as some would say, the dark soul of the night. It really was a challenging time. If you've ever had that, certain times in life, usually it can happen after someone's had a bereavement or some kind of loss where you're like, what is the point? I've been doing all this, or you discover that what you thought was true is no longer true. I was questioning all
Okay.
sorts. That came after the cult experience. And then with the job that I was working in, thinking these people are psychopaths. You're supposed to a caring profession, but obviously it's profit over lives. Just like the audacity, we know these things go on, but the audacity, you're so brazen with it, and you're asking me to do illegal things too. No, thank you. So at that point, I think God does this with me, a restlessness in my soul. so that I could not continue. I realized, even with the family, that certain family members, they were unable to love. They didn't have the capacity. And again, my work informs this practice because people say, "Oh, every mother, every father loves their child." No, that's not true, because I work with people and I see it all the time. It's like when you hear something on the news and the mother of the serial killer says, "He was a good boy." I don't know what they're talking about as they're taking him down to the prison. It's one of those, who I thought you were is not. All of those things led me to really seek my healing, because I thought, I do not want to be like them. I do not want to repeat patterns. I don't want that for myself or others. Some people could say the universe, like the book The Alchemist talks about the universe conspiring. When you decide, and I keep emphasizing, I had to give myself permission. I had to make a decision. When you do, a made up mind is very powerful. The help comes, doesn't it? I found that it did. The mentors, I got a new job. I got people who supported me along the way, strangers. I got the finances, because I made up my mind, you know what? I'm not staying here. I'm not. I refuse. And it was wonderful how all these things came along to help me succeed along the journey. I need to remember that, because there will be times when we'll be down, and sometimes we have this kind of spiritual amnesia and forget how far we've come. But during those times, that's when I knew, you know what, I cannot ignore these signs. What Martin Luther King said, you don't need to see the whole staircase before you take the next step. Just keep going, because really you can't afford to turn back. Just keep going step by step.
Yeah, and that's overcoming the limiting beliefs that you talked about, because as you spoke about it, I feel like that is so common for people to know they want something more, know that they are not in a good place in general, but they don't move. They don't make the move. That limiting belief that I can't do it, I'm not good enough, I don't have the tools, no one will help me. What you're saying, that doesn't matter, even if you feel like you don't have the support or you don't know what the next step looks like. If you feel that it needs to happen for you, do it anyway. Try it. Is that what you're saying? Go out there and go for it.
That is the message. Yeah, we're in an information age. We have access to so much. I know you have to sift through the nonsense, but we have access to so much information. Even if you just Google therapists in my area, and I know in the States you have to pay for it, but still, there is someone who will, if you want to invest in yourself, it's like the teacher appears when the student is ready. There will be a way for you to get that. And I get that not everybody can do that, whether it's that you get that book, you download a free ebook. That's a start, isn't it? I don't think it's acceptable for any of us to complain about where we are and say, there's no help for me. I hear this a lot in the community when I ask people, how did you get here? Why are you in this hospital? They're just oppressing me and I can't get help. And there's no Black therapists and there's not. What are you talking about? No. If you want to find, you can find anything these days. So I don't think we have the excuse anymore. And what is keeping us stuck is this, again, limiting beliefs about this strong Black woman or alpha female archetype that exists. Yeah, I'm strong, because I used to be that high achieving. Yeah, I can cope with everything, throw all the traumas at me. But there's no badge of honor actually in drowning and suffering in silence. This is why people, like I said, it's a life and death matter. It can be for a lot of people. You can only do that for so many years before you not only burn out, before you start to feel suicidal, before it impacts your relationships. And then you're wondering, why can't I function? So before it gets to that, just check yourself, because you know yourself better than anyone else. You know when you don't quite feel right. We ignore it, go on. We'll catch up with you. A bit like when we're grieving. If you've had a loss, I hear a lot of people say, I should be over it by now. And then I ask them, what happened? I lost my husband. When? Oh, 3 weeks ago. And it's all that toxic positivity that we have, not only in the church, I see it a lot in the church, in society. Stupid things that people say, oh, don't worry, you'll find a new husband. Excuse me? You're at the funeral and you're telling people, don't cry. Why shouldn't they cry? That's the most appropriate place to cry, is it not? When someone has lost someone. All these things that we do that can hinder people's healing, that make them feel ashamed to seek help. We need to create more atmospheres where people can say, how are you doing? And people can really answer authentically. I had a rough night. I had 10 bottles of Hennessy or whatever. I'm really struggling. We should be able to say that without fear of condemnation.
Yeah. Because like you said, you see it more commonly where people, when someone's showing some emotion or grieving, most people just say, yeah, don't cry or keep your head up. But sometimes you need to allow people to be down, to be in that moment, acknowledge difficult emotions and experiences. And that would decrease some of the stigma and the shame.
Exactly.
Yeah, being human, right?
Thank you. I'm glad you said that, because by virtue of the fact that we are human beings, these are undesirable emotions, but they're parts. We can't only accept the ones that we're comfortable with. And I think that's why people tend to shut other people down, because they're uncomfortable. But even me, sometimes it can be very uneasy. If somebody is crying uncontrollably or expressing anger, like, whoa, that's really intense. But it's better, actually, sometimes we don't need to say anything. We just need to sit with the person, or if you don't know what to do, know where to signpost them. There are things, but denying it and avoiding it is not really helpful. We need to get out of survival mode. We were designed to thrive. Whatever worked for you in survival mode, all the trauma responses, the defense mechanisms help develop some level of resilience and get to where I am. But it doesn't help me when I'm trying to thrive. Yes, that was protective, but now that could just be fear. It could be anxiety that tells me you need to have this and do this. And then you get into trying to control circumstances and situations, and you can't do that. So it's learning to let go, which I've had to learn and still learning, letting go of things, can't prepare for every eventuality, just not being so paranoid because I am with people, because my family have taught me that I can't really trust people. But does that mean that everybody is a criminal? Does that mean everybody's out to get me? No. So it's a learning process.
Yeah, especially when it's been ingrained into your brain and you have to unlearn those things and start to think about things differently. That's the difficult part. What do you wish you would have known earlier? I think you've been telling us some things about it, but what, if anything comes to mind, do you wish you would have known earlier?
Oh gosh, so many things. Knowing my self-worth does not come from others, not even my family. I wish I would have not seeking approval, whether it's from the boss, family members, relationships with men and others. Those are nice things to have, but if you don't have them, what are you going to do? If nobody's coming to rescue you, are you going to lay down and be defeated, or are you going to try and fight? Because that's the thing, we don't give ourselves permission. We have certain human rights that we say for other people. Yes, you have the right to get married, but we don't afford those rights to ourselves. The right to make mistakes, the right to pursue your purpose, your interests. I just wish I would have known that I am worthy as I am, where I am. If I never get married again, if I never have any more children, if I never get that 6-figure deal that I've been looking for, then it's okay. That's enough. I've done enough. I am enough. I have to be a human being rather than doing. And I just wish that I would have known all that I'm learning, which I've learned through other people, through the faith journey. I always say it's better to know than to wonder. I wish I would have not let fear rule me and taken more proactive steps. I would have traveled more. I wish I would have done all those things, but not living with regret. It's all about identity. Ultimately, I wish I would have sought help earlier. My overall message is, please don't suffer in silence. None of us should. I did it for years because of the shame and how it made me feel. You're not alone, and there is help. I wish I'd have known that before.
Where can listeners find out more about you and the things that you can offer to help them?
It's in my link tree, which will be put in the description. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram at Maz Transformational Coaching. And yeah, feel free to connect. If there's anything I said you don't agree with, let me know. I'm always open to alternative views. One final thing in terms of self care, I'm a big self care advocate. We haven't talked much about that tonight, but boundaries. That's what I was trying to say in a roundabout way. I learned to have boundaries, which were essential for my own self care, that protected me, that helped other people know how to treat me. And I think it's something that we would all benefit from if we knew what our values are, what our boundaries are, and we communicate that to others, then our relationships would be a lot more smooth.
Thank you so much. I agree. Boundaries are that's probably step one. Start setting those boundaries. All right. So Maz, again, thank you so much for all of the information tonight. And it's been a pleasure. I hope to speak to you again sometime soon.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Have a good night.
Bye.
All right. Bye bye.
Thank you.